Most people in Benin live in the south of the country, in major cities such as Cotonou, the economic capital, and Porto Novo, the administrative capital. There is also a vast coastal plain with a network of rivers including the Niger and the Weme. Villagers here have always made a living from fishing and agriculture. However, in recent years, this fertile environment has been increasingly under threat. No one can forget the tragic floods of 2010 that left 46 people dead and 680,000 homeless. Benin is paying the price for climate change, with devastation caused by heavy rain and rivers bursting their banks, as in the village of Anglais, in the low-lying areas of the Weme Valley.
We often have floods with no warning. Our crops are destroyed and many children are killed.
The school, the village hall and villagers' houses have been flooded countless times.
When the water levels rise, houses are flooded and we have to evacuate people to avoid disastrous consequences.
Faced with an alarming situation, the government has decided to take action. An early warning system, or EWS, was launched in January to head off disaster. The program is backed by the UNDP, the United Nations Development Programme, and the Global Environment Facility. Following the example of systems already in place in Kenya and the Netherlands, the EWS anticipates floods, as well as periods of drought or strong winds, thanks to a graduated scale that runs from green for a normal situation to red for imminent danger. It is now the beginning of the short rainy season, and the region is on red alert. The specialists are working frantically. The situation is potentially dangerous for the inhabitants of 12 communities. 3 days earlier, the monitoring of water levels, morning and evening, on these measuring poles, situated in the rivers, showed abnormally high water levels. The data were sent to the control center, where real-time forecasts are made.
Here we have the forecast for the river Weme at Bono. And the measurements we received from the monitors in Bono. And here in red is our forecast. So as you can see, it is a 3-day forecast.
If the final alert is issued, local mayors will make sure homes along riverbanks are evacuated and the inhabitants moved to safety.
This red alert warns us that the water levels have risen and the river has burst its banks and started to flood people's homes. We contacted the National Civil Defense Agency responsible for crisis management in Benin. They have contingency plans and take the necessary measures. They know what needs to be done.
Climate change can be life-threatening, but also has major economic consequences. 2010 floods resulted in an estimated $256 million worth of damage and loss of revenue. There is, of course, a price to pay for local inhabitants, as with the Niger River flood.
When the river breaks its banks, we cannot control the floodwater, and it washes away crops as well as homes, causing havoc for the people in the area. We had invested heavily to make it possible to grow cash crops in the valley, so you can imagine the losses incurred.
Alors, vous voyez, le déficit de la culture vivrière, ça met en cause, en quelque sorte,
the local population's food security is jeopardized and youth unemployment rises.
Et donc, nous allons rechercher des ressources qui sont très importantes, de l'ordre de plus de 95 milliards.
We are going to take major steps, investing around $185,000 million to rebuild the dikes along the river Niger, to channel the water when the river reaches flood levels.
De contenir, lorsque, en cas d'inondation, de contenir le fleuve dans son lit.
The government-implemented Commission for Economic Modelling of the Impact and Integration of Climate Change has just been set up. This sends out a clear signal to the country and its people, but it is, above all, an effective working tool that anticipates the financial cost of climate change and the impact on national budgets. This political decision requires the involvement of several government ministries if it is to be successfully implemented.
Je dois dire qu'il était temps. Il était temps parce que nous avons,
I must say it was about time.
dans les pays africains, beaucoup de retard.
I believe African countries have a lot of catching up to do in terms of adapting economic policies and national budgets to take account of the effects of climate change.
Et globalement de l'environnement.
La commission qu'on vient d'installer est un outil.
The commission that we have just set up is a tool we can use to coordinate decisions and to make sure the decisions we take are competent.
Parce qu'aujourd'hui, la croissance que nous recherchons ne doit
We are
pas
not
être une
interested
croissance
in erratic spurts of growth.
C'est une
We need
croissance
lasting,
durable,
sustainable growth.
Et qui parle de stabilité, parle aujourd'hui de la gestion.
And if you
du
want
changement
stability, you have to
climatique.
factor in
Parce que
coping with
prenez
climate
l'exemple,
change.
Par exemple, de ce qui s'est passé à Haïti. Rien que l'ouragan
Take the example of Haiti, where the hurricane wiped out the economy.
à un niveau totalement nul.
The creation of this commission is one of Benin's obligations after the signing and ratification of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. It is also a clear illustration of the country's commitment to modify its macroeconomic policy.
Si le budget est
If the
l'expression
budget
du
is the
développement
reflection of a
de l'État,
nation's
des choix
development
de
and of
l'État,
its choices,
il est évident
this
que ce
budget
budget
clearly
doit
has to take
intégrer
account of
les
environmental concerns.
Donc vous voyez déjà que en
As you
essayant
see,
d'anticiper,
by trying to
de prévoir,
anticipate,
de quantifier
quantify, and
et de
include
les intégrer
such
déjà
considerations in
aux
our
prévisions de
national budget
dépenses budgétaires de
forecasts,
l'État,
we are
nous
actually
sommes en
bringing
train,
about
en
a
réalité,
change in
donc,
economic
d'inclure
policies.
les changements
Up until
dans les
now,
politiques
not much
macroéconomiques
attention was paid to
jusqu'à
environmental
présent,
issues.
évite de prendre en compte l'environnement.
Benin is one of 11 African countries to benefit from the UNDP-backed early warning system. The country's long-term goal is to work in collaboration with its West African neighbours. Benin is something of a pioneer in Africa and beyond, a testimony to the political will to take its future into its own hands.
We need to anticipate. Rather than waiting for humanitarian aid, we should be evaluating risks in a professional manner and integrating the information in our budget forecasts.